Which Aetherdrift Precon Commander is for you? Guys, welcome to the video. My name is Jack Talks MTG and I make Commander content for noobs like you. Now guys, this is my favorite time of the year where we get to talk about some brand new Precon Commanders. I love breaking down these cards and just helping you, the viewers, decide which one is going to be best suited for you if you want to pick up one of these new Precons, or maybe even just help you decide if you want to pick up one or not. I'm going to be talking about the art of these cards. I'm going to be talking about the play style of these cards and whether they're going to suit you or not, depending on which sort of player you are, your experience, whether you're new, old, whether you like to play a certain way. All these different things we're going to be breaking down, guys. So if that sounds good to you, then stay tuned for this video. And at the end of the video, I'm going to be giving you guys my personal favorite commander out of these four. Now, last year, I did breakdown videos of the Bloomburrow and Duskmourn face commanders. If you haven't checked those out and you want to pick up one of those decks, then I suggest you pick those up because people seem to really like the video, so maybe you will as well. Now, in those videos, we had 4 commander decks, so all I did was break down the face commander, but for this time, we've only got 2, which means that we get to break down the backup commanders for each one. Now, guys, I'm super excited to get into these cards and start breaking these down, but before I do, I have one small request. If you enjoyed the content in this video, then please hit that subscribe button because it does so much to help support the channel, and you'll make my day. Right, let's get into these cards. So the first commander deck we're going to be looking at is Eternal Might. This is the Armenket themed commander deck, and the face commander for it is Temmet, Naktamun's Will. Right, so first things first, let's look at the art of this card. So for Temmet, he is a mummy. He has got 2 weapons of choice. He's got a nice little sickle blade where we can see the sun shining and bouncing off this blade. It's a really nice touch. And then he's got a little like Egyptian whip in the other hand. He is looking rather nice, rather, you know, Tutankhamun vibes. So if you like that whole Pharaoh Egyptian aesthetic, then yeah, this guy is going to be well up your alley. Like the turquoise in the armor, really, this reminds me of like Tomb Kings from Warhammer. If you're familiar with Warhammer, the old world and fantasy and stuff, there's a faction in there called the Tomb Kings, which are essentially like this like Egyptian faction. They use a lot of skeletons and stuff, and their theme is a lot of like white and turquoise and gold and stuff, and that is very much resemblance here. So I think that's quite inspired by that, and I really like it. I think it's a nice color scheme. So yeah, right, let's actually look at Temmet's card. So Temmet, Naktamun's Will is a 5-cost commander, 2 colorless, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 black. Okay, so we're looking quite an expensive commander. He's a legendary creature, of course, zombie wizard. So if you like your zombies, ding, 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 ding. It has vigilance and menace. Some nice keywords there. Whenever you attack, draw a card, then discard a card. And then whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until the end of the turn. That's it, team. A rather nice, basic, simple to understand card here. Very, very nice for new players. So in this video, I'm actually going to be using like a pros and cons list. So I'm going to be breaking down the pros and cons of each card, and maybe that should help you decide whether this card or deck is for you. So what is the pros for Temmet? Number 1 is nice and simple to understand. Perfect for new players. Discards cards into your graveyard, which your deck wants to do because you're running a zombie reanimation deck. So it helps you discard those cards, get them in the graveyard, and then buff up your zombies. So it's a zombie tribal deck. So, and a little spoiler alert, this deck has lots of zombies in it. So essentially, this is a zombie tribal deck. Tribal decks are super, super popular just in general. People love tribal decks. They're easier to build. It's just nice and simple. Oh, I'm building a zombie deck, so I'm just going to put loads of zombies in the deck. Or I'm building a pirate deck, so I'm going to just bung loads of pirates in. So that's nice. It's that in that way, it is quite beginner friendly as well. And it's just simple, guys. It's allowing you to do what your deck wants to do. Get stuff in the graveyard so you can start reanimating and start doing other stuff like that. And then just buff up your zombies. That's always going to be good. And it's whenever you draw a card. So not only that, but it's encouraging you to draw cards, which I don't know if you've tried it, but it's quite a fun thing to do. So a commander that is encouraging you to draw cards is always going to be fun. Okay, let's talk about some of the cons of Temmet. So cons right off the bat, this guy is expensive. He is a 5-cost commander. So if this guy dies, is going to be quite expensive to bring him back. He's coming back at 7, then he's coming back at 9. Yeah, that's always going to be a little bit of a kick in the teeth. And usually 5-cost commanders are quite powerful, so your opponents are going to be targeting. They've got plenty of time to wait and hold their removal spells for when you bring out your big scary commander. Another con for this card is that it's actually quite simple, which is good for beginners, but it is a bad thing maybe for veteran players. Not all veteran players want something really complex, but there are those players that are going to gravitate more towards strategies and cards that get their brain juices flowing a little bit more, and this is very simplistic. Another bad thing about this card is that it doesn't actually reanimate your stuff, which is a bit of a bummer because you're running zombies. You're going to be wanting to reanimate. The whole point of it's allowing you to dump cards into the graveyard is so you can reanimate him, but he doesn't actually have a way to reanimate them himself. So there are ways in this deck to reanimate your stuff, but it would be nicer if he did it himself. And because he doesn't, you're reanimating things a lot less consistently. So you may even want to put a little bit more reanimation cards in here if that is the route you want to go down. Overall, I think Temmet is a lovely, lovely commander. And again, really, really nice for beginners. So if you are new to the game and you're looking to pick up your first precon, then Temmet may be for you. But let's look at these other cards and see what else is there to offer. So the backup commander for the Eternal Might Precon is Hashaton, Scarab's Fist. Don't know if I said that right, but yeah, we'll go with Hashaton. So Hashaton, artwork. Let's have a little look. So he is a lot more blue. He's like got that royal blue, not so much the turquoise. The turquoise is in his staff, but in terms of his armor, he's very royal blue. And he's got some black in there as well. So royal blue, black, gold. He's got a pretty gnarly looking face there. Yeah, I don't know. He's definitely got a different vibe going to him. I'm not really getting desert vibes from Hashaton. Like everything's very white. Like the sky is very cloudy. The pyramids, it looks like in the background, are like almost like white blue. It almost looks like a icy sort of thing going on in the background. So that's definitely interesting from an art standpoint. Let's look at Hashaton. So he is a white-black, so he's a 2-color commander. Woo, okay. Legendary creature, Zombie Wizard. Whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2 colorless and 1 blue. If you do, create a tapped token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. Pros and cons for Hashaton. Right off the bat, he's a nice, cheap commander. 2-drop for a commander is always going to feel great. You're getting this guy out immediately before a lot of the time your opponent has enough mana or time to even draw into those removal spells. So that's quite nice. Now, this commander is definitely a little bit more complex and a little bit more gets the juices, the brain juices that is flowing, because now we're starting to think, right, okay, this guy could be a bit of a combo piece, right? Because he's copying our creatures. So now I'm thinking, well, how do I abuse this? Essentially allows you to cheat out powerful creatures for cheaper, making them maybe a little bit weaker, but reducing their mana cost as long as you discard them. Now, it can also buff other stuff as well, so it could turn like a weak creature into a nice 4/4, which is pretty respectable. But yeah, really with this, you want to be making copies of maybe cards that have got really powerful abilities, like really powerful ETBs and stuff like that. And there is some very nice cards in this deck that you definitely want to be abusing with this ability. Like the Priest of the Crossing. This card is absolutely disgusting, and having multiple copies of this priest, your creatures are going to be getting a lot of 1/1 counters, and your board is going to get out of control very quickly. There's also a Grave Titan in this deck, and you know, if you don't know Grave Titan, this guy is creating a lot of zombies for you when he enters and when he attacks. If you have multiple Grave Titans, well, you're getting multiple zombies, and that board is just going to start getting nice and filled with a nice old zombie army. The last pro I'm going to say about this card is that it doesn't need you to build into zombies. Yes, it creates zombies, but there is nowhere on this text that says that the cards have to be zombies. So that means if you wanted to go away from the zombie route and just fill your deck with loads of cards that want you to create loads of multiple copies of them, you can do so, and that freedom is always going to be nice. Okay, let's talk about some cons for this card. So, I would not say this card is as beginner friendly as our first commander, Temmet, because quite simply, you've got to hold the mana up to activate this ability. And, you know, if you're a more veteran player, it doesn't really seem like a big deal, but for new players, you know, they're not really thinking about activated abilities as much as a veteran player is. And it's so easy for them to just caught up and look at the cards in their hand and go, oh, this is cool. I want to play this. And then they go, ah, crap, I can't copy it now because I don't have my mana. So it takes a lot more thinking. It's a lot more thinky. And, you know, that's going to be really cool and a pro for some people, and it's just going to be straight up a con for some people. Yeah, this guy's what I like to call more of a facilitator commander, a value commander. He's not winning the game for you himself, but he's allowing you to abuse other cards in your deck and help them win the game for you. Whereas Temmet is going to just straight up, he's not only buffing your stuff, but he's buffing himself. And because he's a big card with vigilance and menace and all that stuff, he can pretty much win a command of the game by himself. He can get that commander damage in, all that fun stuff, and you're just not going to be doing that with Hashaton. Another big con I would say for Hashaton is that, especially out the box, this guy relies a lot on discard, and there isn't that many discard cards in this deck. They are there. I think there's around 10. I'm not counting like cycle lands and stuff like that, because it specifically says here whenever you discard a creature card. So your cycle lands don't really do anything. You need ways to discard your creatures. And I would say if I'm building a deck around this card, I definitely want more ways to discard my creatures so I can abuse this ability more. So out the box, you're definitely going to want to do some deck edits before you really start leaning into Hashaton, I would say. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Hashaton. The general vibe seems to be people are really excited about this card, but again, that is the more enfranchised players. That is the more people that want something. They're looking at the most powerful card and the one that they can abuse and go crazy with. And, you know, that's going to be Hashaton. But if you're new, you just picked this up, then stick with Temmet. You're going to have a great time on this guy. That's my thoughts for the Eternal Might Precon. Right, that is the Eternal Might Commanders covered. So now let's look at the Living Energy Commanders, starting with the Face Commander, and that is going to be Saheeli, Radiant Creator. Now, let's look at the artwork on this Saheeli, and I've got to say, this is a really nice looking card, guys. Like, I am loving this purple vibe going on. I would probably say this is definitely up there with one of the best, if not the best looking Saheeli we've had. Yeah, it's just very different than what we've seen so far. I don't know, she's in a bit of a different getup. She's got green sashes on. Yeah, I don't think she normally has green sashes on. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, like we can see lots of flowers, vegetation and stuff in here as well. So is that because of the new green vibe she's got going? She's becoming more, you know, more of a hippie. Yeah, no, it's cool. I like it. I like the attention to detail. So Saheeli, Radiant Creator, is a legendary creature, human artificer. One colorless, one green, one blue, and one red. So she is a 4-cost commander. Whenever you cast an artificer or artifact spell, you get an energy counter. Yep, team, that's right. Well, we already talked about this before, but we are confirmed that this deck is an energy deck. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 3 energy. When you do, create a token that's a copy of a target permanent you control, except it's a 5/5 artifact creature in addition to its other types and has haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Right. Let's get into the pros of this card. So, pros, straight away, it likes energy. So, if you like energy as a mechanic, you're going to like this card, straight up. If you've bought the Fallout Precon, the energy one, or you've bought the Modern Horizons free one, you are probably very excited because you finally have some new energy cards to play with. Apart from the green ones, you can't use those. Energy as a mechanic it's a little bit is a little bit controversial, shall we say. But we're talking about the pros for now. So yeah, if you already have energy decks or you wanted to try energy or all that stuff, it's definitely different. It is different. So yeah, we'll put that down, that as a pro for now. It's an artifact cares card, so it wants you to cast artifacts, but also artificers, which is quite nice. And that's a pro because there's so much support for artifacts, so you're not going to have trouble in that department. It creates powerful copies of things, so if you have like these little 1/1 Fopters, which yes, this deck makes a lot of those, your now 1/1s are becoming 5/5 straight up. No less like putting counters on them, just make them into 5/5s straight away. As long as you've got the energy, boom, that's it, you're good to go. And all of those Fopters fly. It's any permanent, guys, so this doesn't have to be creatures. You can literally copy enchantments, you can copy artifacts. Kind of like Bellow, reminds me of Bellow. Not quite as good as Bellow because that makes them indestructible and gives them haste and they draw you cards when they attack, but they have to be mana value 4 greater. And this doesn't have that limitation anywhere. It's anything. You can literally turn your bloody Soul Ring into a 5/5 if you want. The disadvantage is obviously you have to sack it as well at the beginning of the next end step. So, you know, otherwise this would be a little bit OP. Another little thing that I've noticed is that this deck has some exhaust abilities, and this allows you to essentially abuse that, because if you don't know, exhaust is a new mechanic in Aetherdrift, which are one-time use abilities. How do you get around that? Well, create multiple copies of that card and you can use that ability multiple times. So an example of a card with a very powerful exhaust ability is Pima Trailblazer. You get to pay 6 energy, put 2 1/1 counters on the creature, then draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So you likely are going to be drawing at least 5 cards, which is really nice. And what's even better than this is if you abuse it. Now, I don't know how much energy you're going to have, but there's probably loads of ways to create lots of energy, so you'll probably have it, let's be honest. Okay, let's talk about the cons for Saheeli. Starting with, just like we did with the pros, the energy mechanic. It's a con as well, team, and a lot of people don't like energy because it does have a few cons with it. If a deck is making you build energy, you are so limited in deck construction because you have to have cards that create lots of energy, and there isn't that many cards that do that. So, you know, you can't really start getting all that experimental because you have quite a limited card pool, which is such a damn shame. Energy is also a mechanic that is quite, you know, can be quite confusing for a new player because it's given you a whole nother resource to track. You know, there's enough going on in Magic for a new player. Don't add energy to the mix. It's just not a good idea. Overall, I think Saheeli Radiant Creator is quite a powerful commander. That is for certain. Whether it is going to be the right one for you is really going to be dictated on what is your level of experience with the game. What are your personal thoughts and play group's thoughts as well on energy? And yeah, that's about it. But if you do like energy and you like artifacts, then this is probably going to be a fun commander for you. Okay, let's talk about the backup commander for the Living Energy deck. And that is going to be Pia Nalaar Chief Mechanic. Nalaar, yes, you heard that right, all you Magic lore nerds. This person is related to Chandra, and she is Chandra's mother. So let's look at the artwork for Pia. So she's got her little goggles on. She is working on a vehicle. We can clearly see that. She's got her gloves on. She's got a spanner in her hand. She's got a little toolbox on her, which is quite cool. I really like the artwork on this card. I like this card a lot, actually. There's a lot of colors going on. The turquoise is coming back with some bronze. I like a little purple outfit. I love the way the artist has done this, actually. It looks like really just realistic, actually. Okay, so what is Pia doing? So first of all, she's a 3-cost commander. 1 green, 1 blue, 1 red. Okay, we always like a nice cheap commander. Legendary creature, human artificer. Whenever 1 or more artifact creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, you get 2 energy counters. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1 or more energy. If you do, create an XX colorless vehicle artifact token named Nalaar Aetherdrift with flying and crew 2, where X is the amount of energy spent this way. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you're a new player, you're just like, excuse me? There's probably a lot there that you just went straight over your head, and that's fine. I'm going to explain it for you. So PR creates vehicles for stars, and if you don't know how vehicle works, they basically have a crew cost, which is where it says crew 2 there, which means you have to tap creatures equal to the power of that crew cost. So this is crew 2, so you have to tap creatures with power up to 2 or more, basically, in order to crew the vehicle, which means the artifact becomes a creature, and you can use it in that turn to attack or block or anything like that. But after that, it goes back to being an artifact, and then you have to crew it again if you want to use it. So just bear that in mind. So you've always got to have creatures that are untapped that can tap in order to crew your artifact. So what are the pros for PR Nalaar? Well, straight away, I love the fact that this card is caring about vehicles, right? That is what Aetherdrift is all about, and it was a bit of a shame, in my opinion, that we didn't really get much vehicle stuff in these precons. If you haven't already, I highly recommend going and watch Good Morning Magic's episode on why there was only 2 commander decks for Aetherdrift with Gavin Verhey. Gavin just explains this so well. So yeah, this card is creating vehicles, and I think that's a big pro. I love that. It's very cool. I like the fact that it's encouraged you to save your energy instead of spamming your energy. So you've got that option, like, oh, do I want to spam it to create lots of little vehicles, or do I want to save, and then just slam a massive, powerful vehicle that only has crew 2, by the way, with flying? Like, that sounds generally a lot more fun to me. I'm liking PR Nalaar in that sense. I think it's really cool. She's given you invasive creatures, so if you're a player that's quite cautious, or you just don't like doing math and have to figure out whether your stuff's gonna die or blah blah, it has flying. So a lot of the time, if your opponents don't have a flyer, you're just like, cool, swing at you for 10. Nice. And as I said, it's free mana, nice and cheap. Yeah, those are the pros for PR Nalaar. Let's talk about the cons. Again, this card requires energy. We're not getting an escape from it. It still needs energy. However, I like the fact that you can make this a little bit more its own thing by putting some vehicles in there as well. Or not vehicles, but vehicles cares cards. Cards that's going to give you maybe like pilots, shall we say, or just other stuff that cares about you having vehicles, because this commander is creating vehicles. So it's going to synergize really well with that. Another con for this card is that your creatures, your artifact creatures, need to deal combat damage in order for you to gain energy with this card. Saheeli is so much easier for creating that energy because you just have to cast artifacts or artificer spells. It's easy. With this, they've got to hit. If they're not hitting and your opponent's holding up blockers, you're not getting no energy, you don't get no vehicles, and you get no fun. So yeah, I'd say that's quite a big downside to the card. Overall, I do like this PR Nalaar Chief Mechanic. I'll go out and say it. I do prefer this to the Saheeli. Is it beginner friendly? No, I'm not a complete beginner, so it doesn't really apply to me. But again, if you are a brand new player, I would recommend this even less than the Saheeli, because you've got the added complexion of vehicles and stuff like that. So just, yeah, does not feel very beginner friendly at all, this card. So just bear that in mind. But if you want something a bit more juicy, a bit more exciting, a bit more different, then I think PR Nalaar is a good choice. Okay, that brings us to the end of our commander breakdown. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And as I said, I'm going to give you my personal choice. So if you're a brand new player, you can probably already guess, I'm not going to recommend the Living Energy Precon. If you're a brand new player and you want to pick up one of these, then I highly recommend that you go for the Eternal Might Precon using Temmet as your commander. So the face commander. This guy is just very nice for beginners. I think you're going to have so much fun on him. The deck looks really cool. Now, I will say, it's not a blanket statement if you're new, you should get this, because, you know, if zombies aren't your thing, or if white, blue, black is not your thing, if reanimation, discarding, cycling, none of that stuff, the thematic, the theme, the mummy stuff, if this stuff is not your thing, then, you know, there's better precons to buy. We're just comparing these two precons, and if you're a beginner, absolutely Eternal Might is the one you want to go for. Now, me personally, I would be going for the Eternal Might Precon because I'm not a fan of energy, really. And in terms of which commander I would want to use, it's hard. I'd play around with both. I mean, I love the fact that Temmet is a zombie tribal card. I love tribal decks. I think they're super, super fun. But I'm also so interested to see what kind of craziness you could do with Hashaton. So I'd have to play with the deck and see kind of which one I like more. It's very hard for me to give a blanket statement, but my recommendation overall, my channel is for new players primarily. So my choice is going to be Temmet Naktamun's Will as the #1 commander from my personal choice. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. Let me know in the comments below, do you want to be picking up one of these precons, and which one are you going to be picking up? Other than that, guys, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I hope to see you all again very soon. Cheers.